Once upon a time, long ago, there was an eccentric alchemist who single-handedly took mankind from what was the equivalent of dirty, stinky, barely evolved apes and moved him into the realm of exquisite, dirty, stinky humans who could totally shred at the range and T-zone Terries with an unprecedented level of efficiency. Eugene Stoner, hallowed be thy name, may have brought into the world what many will claim to be the most beautiful creation ever known to man. This enigma of modern engineering rivaled the beauty of even a desert oasis filled with belly dancers and bottomless plates of Doritos Locos Tacos Supreme. Today, folks, you guessed it, we are learning about the Tundra version of the history of the AR-15.
It's so beautiful!
Before we get into the gritty details of how we evolved from the primordial ooze into camo-clad death machines with the introduction of just one amazing tool, a quick shout out needs to go to this week's sponsor. Have you been eyeballing your grandpappy's surplus Enfield that he bought for a nickel at the local Piggly Wiggly and then wondering how to put a scope on it? Or maybe you've been rifling through your wife's side of the bathroom vanity for an emery board to clean up the trigger on that partner pump sitting in the closet. Boy, do we have the folks you need to talk to.
My prayers have finally been answered.
Sonoran Desert Institute is a place where you can learn all of the best gunsmithing tricks of the trade. Like how many toothpicks are appropriate to shim your scope rings with, what bits to use in your Dremel to ensure all your serial numbers match, how to use craft foam to bed your stock and float your barrel, or even what brand and color of marker to choose to match bluing. Here's a hint, it's not blue. Check out Sonoran Desert Institute today and you'll find yourself moving from that kitchen table to an actual workbench to smith your guns before you can say oops. Thanks, guys. Please don't regret your decision and bring us on next year too. After World War II, you know, the one where America showed up and showed everyone how to cram 10 pounds of freedom into a 9-pound sack?
America!
The US government took a look at its existing arsenal. Official records state that they liked the Garand because the ping sound was pleasant and it sounded like you were next in line for some great prize when the clip popped out of the rifle. But then they remembered they also had abominations like the grease gun, the Thompson, and the universally despised 1918 BAR. Disgust covered the faces of these war-hardened generals from across all branches of service, and one unconfirmed report said that Eisenhower actually blew chunks all over MacArthur's Distinguished Service Cross.
Oh, this is disgusting. What is that? Is that Branson? Is that a tap-dancing crab demon?
They knew they had to do something to standardize the weaponry across the forward fighting elements while giving our soldiers the ability to go full auto as a means of improving morale while simultaneously wasting taxpayer funds in the way of poorly placed ammunition. Many people came to the plate thinking that they had the answer to this riddle, and the government almost fell for the practical joke of introducing the M2 carbine. This joke didn't go over so well because we accidentally let this pile of crap be used in the Korean War. The M2 carbine is absolute proof that your government does not always know what's best for you, no matter how right they tell you they are. Then somebody thought, wait a second, 7.62x51 is a pretty kick-ass round. And guess what? It totally is. So naturally, people thought we should start building our service rifles around it.
God wills it!
Though good, the execution was a little bit lacking. The M14 proved that people have almost no innovation when they took the M1, removed the cool soundtrack, and added a box magazine.
What did you just say?
I truly believe that these useful idiots had the best of intentions in mind, but totally screwed the pooch at doing something cool. Then, from a dark corner behind a Quick Trip, one man in a trench coat smoking a filterless cigarette said, "Hey kids, you wanna see a dead body?" And then he whipped out an AR-10 and everybody lost their fucking minds.
What the fuck happened? What happened? What happened?
The aluminum and polymer married to steel in what was maybe the most unlikely orgy of materials ever imagined turned out to be totally awesome and maybe the best thing to ever come out of the 50s. It was lightweight, it had an adjustable gas system, a box magazine, and recoil dampening built into the action. These were all things that infantrymen used to hear about from their friends' older brothers when they weren't selling Playboys with most of the pages still intact. Springfield got their hands on a couple of these bad Larrys and actually said that this was the best lightweight rifle ever tested by the Armory. That's not a joke, folks. That is on Wikipedia. Then, due to a bunch of complete morons being in charge of the government purchasing program, they went with the M14.
Oh, come on!
This resulted in a predictable tirade of backlash from the people who actually had to carry this thing in combat. Reports of overweight rifles, heavy ammunition, low magazine capacity, and overcomplicated internals were heard in between the disruptive temper tantrums and feces throwing that the lower enlisted soldiers had been known for over the decades. In 1957, General Willard Wyman had heard enough bitching and moaning and decided that the M14 was in fact a steaming pile of dog shit.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
He went up to Eugene Stoner and asked, "You know that rifle that you made, the best one that Springfield Armory had ever tested? You think you could make it in 5.56?" He did all this while dragging his toes in the sand and avoiding eye contact. Stoner was disgusted by the lack of backbone in this man, but out of pity, he decided to do it. The result was, you guessed it folks, the AR-15. Everybody rejoiced as champagne flowed freely and people began making love in the streets. Everybody, that is, except for one man. General Maxwell Taylor, a man immediately recognizable by the enormous stick that was permanently lodged in his ass, said, "We don't need lightweight select fire rifles. We have lightweight select fire rifles at home." Of course, he was referring to the M14, and unfortunately, no songs were sung on this day. Eugene Stoner got so sick and tired of people dick dancing around and asking him for the best rifles in the world, calling him in the middle of the night, and then immediately hanging up because they were too nervous to actually talk to him. He just sold the whole damn patent to Colt and excused himself to his mansion full of hookers and unlimited cocaine to relax his nerves for a couple of years.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
I mean, who wouldn't at that point? To make the rest of the story brief, Colt said if the Army was going to continue to eat soup with a fork by using the M14, they'd just sell a bunch of these things to the Air Force. The Air Force was so excited that people momentarily mistook them for an actual fighting force and not just a bunch of pretty boys in airplanes. They bought all they could handle. Then the Army and Marines all got jealous, just like they always do, and started to try to buy as many of these things as they could before Eugene came back with his beaten stick to perform percussive maintenance on them for failing to believe in his lack of vision.
Lig my balls.
Now, a whole bunch of other stuff happened, and then modularity was invented sometime around the year 2000. It was still crude, but it did result in the quad rails that we despise even today. That later morphed into Keymod and M-LOK rail systems, and this was also roughly around the same time frame that global war on terror veterans and competitive shooters wanted good guns at home and not just in the service. So they started buying these things in massive numbers. That is, when they weren't too busy making t-shirt companies or selling coffee. We hope you enjoyed the Tundra Tactical version of the history of the AR-15, folks. If you like this video, make sure to check out these two cripplers right here, and don't forget to join us next week when we still don't know what the fuck we're doing. Bye.